Welcome to the Earned First podcast. My name is Arun Sudham and I'm founding editor at Earned First. I'm really happy to be joined on our second episode by someone who I've known in this industry for, I think, probably the longest time, Emma Smith, who's founder and CEO at Sandpiper. Emma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Aaron. It's lovely to be here. Yes, we've known each other a really long time. You don't age. You're aging well.
Yeah, well, indeed. We'll talk about that. But how are you doing today, first of all?
Oh, how am I doing specifically today? Well, I have been better, of course, given that I fell yesterday, tripped in. I live in an apartment building that is really badly maintained, and none of the flagstones seem to be even. And I managed to trip and fall. So I've got not quite a black eye, but it's looking great. Not looking my best.
Well, look, I'm first of all really thankful that you still managed to soldier on and show up on the podcast. So thank you very much. And I think it will be very worthwhile. So we first met in quite different circumstances, I guess, to how I meet most people in the industry, and that I was working for you at Weber Shandwick. I came from the Weber side. You were at Shandwick. You had arrived. Of course, this was in Hong Kong. You had arrived in Hong Kong a few years before that, I believe.
That's right. February 6th, 1994.
Oh, right. So it was quite a while before that, actually. So it was about 7 years. And at that point, you were running Weber Shandwick. Was it North Asia? Was it Hong Kong?
Hong Kong. I don't know, maybe North Asia by that point. Yeah. I think North Asia by that point. Yeah.
Okay, so you came to. I really want to talk through your journey because I think it's fascinating. And then we will talk more about everything you're doing at Sandpiper, which is equally interesting. But you arrived in '94 and you started working for Anne Forrest. Is that correct?
I did. I started working for Anne. I think I was employee number 7 at her business, which was called Forrest International, named after her. Employee number 7. And when I left, must be about 4 years later, she had 35 employees across 3 different countries. So that was really fascinating to work for somebody who was brilliant at what they did and was growing a business. And possibly she was definitely an amazing mentor. I've been very lucky to have some incredible mentors, some female, some male, but I don't think I've actually worked for anybody who I wouldn't say has really helped, certainly me in my career. But it was fascinating working for her because I learned a lot, but also I saw how you could grow a business. And I realized that almost everybody I really respected was an entrepreneur. So I guess, when you fast forward however many years, it shouldn't really be any surprise to anybody that that's what I decided I wanted to do for myself.
I mean, you clearly learned well, I feel, given the sort of the strength of your entrepreneurial run, which we'll get to. But
very kind.
You moved from Forrest. Is it still called Forrest, or has it been sold by the time you leave?
No,
we're really getting into the minutiae.
We are. But no, Forrest then became sold to Golan Harris, which was again fascinating to also be privy to that sale process and watch a founder sell and look for a company where they felt the culture was very similar, where people could grow. If you're going to sell, you want to be part of something larger. There are many reasons why, of course, founders decide to sell. But for Anne, once she would think about retiring at a certain period in time, about 3 or 4 years later, but really she just wanted to make sure that all the people that worked for her did very well. And I saw Anne actually before I went to the Provoke Global Conference, so not last year, but the year before. And she lives in the Washington area, so I went to see her, and she's in her early 80s, and she'd looked up everything about Sandpiper, and she's so proud, and it was really lovely. It was just wonderful. We spent a few hours together talking about the industry. And I thought, yeah, that's why you were such a great mentor, because you've still got really relevant, points to make now, so many years later. But yes, I left Anne and went to what was then Shandwick to be the MD of the Hong Kong office.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's your comments on Anne Forrest, I think, are really interesting. She's not necessarily a name that you hear very often anymore, but she
Yeah.
was crucial, really, in that era of expansion in terms of Asian PR firms. Really, that first wave, I think, of entrepreneur-owned PR
Yeah.
firms. So you go to Shandwick, and then pretty soon it's Golan again, right? You're merging with Weber and BSMG,
Yeah.
so that must have been fun.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. It was we went from being a very UK centric organization, under Lord Chadlington, but with great leadership, coming out of the US as well, to being a much more of a New York type, management style, which was very different, very exciting. And I met a lot of great people there, a lot of people who are still there or who are just retiring. And again, learnt a lot, but it was very, very different management style. And I'm a very positive person. So I just think you learn something from everywhere you work and everybody that you actually interact with. And that gave us exposure to different things, different types of clients, and different geographies, and produced what I think at the time was the largest firm in the world, with that merger of Weber and Shandwick, BSMG, and then also, Interpublic, Golan Harris, and everything sort of merging together. It was an exciting time when you're fairly young in the industry. I mean, I was a very young MD, right, when I started running the Hong Kong office, when they unleashed me on the Hong Kong office. But I was young, and you learn a lot very quickly. You learn what you're
With
doing
Harris
well,
Diamond.
what to do. Yes, that's right. Harris and Jack Leslie and Andy Polanski, who's recently retired. The much loved and much revered CEO of Weber for a long time. Yeah, I really did. I really did learn a lot, and I learned a lot about, again, entrepreneurship. And I learned what I loved about being part of such a large organization, and the things that if I ever took the plunge to do it myself, I would change. So,
Right.
yeah.
And it's interesting because it is 25 years ago now, that merger, which is crazy, because that's actually when I joined, was
Yeah.
right when the merger happened. And of course, there's another big merger which is happening at the moment, also involving Interpublic. But you had a front row seat, and some of those names, now that you mention it, people like Lord Chadlington, Harris Diamond, Andy Polanski, Al Golin, Larry Weber, uh, kind of legendary figures uh, in the industry. Do you feel like when you see Interpublic and Omnicom merging today, does it give you the same sense of excitement?
Well, I'm not there, right? So I don't
It's a
know.
very diplomatic answer.
I don't know, because I'm not sitting there. I would think that with any merger of that size, again, you have the opportunities, but then you also have the threats. And the opportunities are, you've got access to a lot of people, and if one side of that coin isn't quite as strong and another side, you can actually take both of those and you hope make something super and merge that together. But on the threat side, it's very diverting, and it just it diverts your attention away from what are the fundamentals of running a business like ours, in an industry like ours. And I often say to people, you've heard me say this, it's not that difficult to do, but not many people do it very well. It's about people. It's about nurturing your talent. It's about listening. Not many people listen very well. And it's about career progression that excites people, that they're coming into work every day and that they can see that there's growth there. Being nervous about whether or not you're going to keep your job, I would think that in itself presents threats to companies, but that would be across any sector. I mean, don't forget, we do a lot of work, right, in M&A at Sandpiper. And so we've had a front row seat at many of those M&As over the years for many different clients in many different industries and sectors. So we know what it's like. And usually they fall down on the internal comms for sure. But I would say that there's a lot of disruption in our industry at the moment. It's not just that. You've had the Burson Hill and Knowlton merger. You've got all of those brands within OPIG and Interpublic. There's a lot of brands there, and a lot of very good brands, a lot of household brands. So there's certainly disruption there, and you can already see jobs are being shed, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of consolidation of different accounts and people, offices.
Yeah.
Will it go well? Will it not? I mean, only time's going to tell. But I see it as a good opportunity for us old independents.
I agree. I just feel like when Weber and Shandwick and BSMG came together,
Yeah.
it was the narrative around it, I think, wasn't about cost savings. It was much more positive compared to some of the messaging you hear in terms of Interpublic and Omnicom. So I don't know. It was a different era, but let's move on. Yeah, I think so. But let's get back to your story. So then you leave Weber Shandwick and you do take the plunge. You start your own firm called the consultancy.
When I started I was actually profitable from day one, which I was very proud about. I was very proud about that. Yeah. Yeah, I was very proud about that. And I had, again, some, you start to, if you've got a track record and you've got a positive reputation, then you start to get work and different projects come through. And then they started to get to be bigger and bigger clients, names, more household names. And then I started to hire, you hire a couple of part-time people and then you hire full-time people. And then everything that comes with that, with the contracts and the, as our CFO, Phil says, more people, more problems. It's one of his mantras. Phil very well.
That's Phil Shannon, by the way, who's been CFO at Edelman. He's like very well known as well in the industry.
Yeah, so he's our CFO and he's wonderful. But he always says to me, more people, more problems. And I remember, as that journey went on, just as an aside, when we got much, much bigger and I'd look at the salary bill and I said, have you just seen the salary bill? And he said, just sign, move on. I said, okay, just move on. We're really big now. Just move on. So, which was great advice, really good advice. But yes, I started with no people, a couple of clients, and then started to gradually employ more people. And we've been doing a lot of work with many different partners, but one of them was MHP out of the UK. And we did an increasing amount of work with them. They were owned by Engine, and they asked to buy us. And it's very flattering that somebody sees value in what you've built enough to actually want to part money to purchase it. And I thought, this seems like a very good idea. And at the time that, Engine was, and MHP especially, was very focused on international growth. Then that changed slightly, and there wasn't really the appetite to grow in our part of the world as much as there had been before. And, as everybody knows, I've said it so many times, but I was the only part of that business that they didn't own 100%. So I said, I'd love to buy that back. And that's really unusual to do that.
Very, very rare. And I want to ask about that. So now I think we kind of know why you perhaps felt that the focus in terms of MHP and Engine wasn't on international growth. And so presumably you felt it was the right time to go on your own. But how difficult was it engineering an MBO? Because it does happen so rarely.
Well, it was like having 3 jobs and almost running 3 companies, because we had MHP, and all of our people and our clients that we were working, as we would be as per normal. And then to build a brand. So to actually take your team into your confidence and say, this is what we're going to do. And we need to build a brand. We need to find a name. We need to have a logo. We need to have new contracts. We need to have a new website. We need new identity. So we actually put a team in place. We hired one of our former clients to come and project manage it. I'm a great believer in, you pay for expertise and you can't possibly do everything yourself. So we paid, which was a very clever move on our part. And we had different work streams. And so one was external communications. So, when I had to phone you and say, I've got something to tell you, this is what I'm doing. And, the press release and all that goes with that. But then a lot of what we did was either internally focused with our people or for our clients. And so we were building that new brand. And then at the same time, exiting from a business. Anybody on this listening to this and who read your newsletter, not the one you sent out this morning, but the one that you sent out last week talking about PE, will know what it's like to work with PE firms. And they don't, in my experience with that, they really just looked at numbers. It was just, we were all just line items on a spreadsheet. So you come to an agreement, but that was really stressful and it just took up a lot of time. And I felt at the end of that year, we sort of limped to the end, and that was the end of 2019. And then we went straight into COVID. So it's all in the timing.
And not much was happening in Hong Kong in 2019, thankfully. It was very, very quiet time.
Oh my gosh. Well, luckily we'd really invested a lot in systems. So really in new timesheet systems and new expense systems. And we put everything in the cloud. So everybody was equipped to work from anywhere. That was going to be one of our philosophies, as well as one P&L, which, I will shout about as loud as I can to anybody who will listen. I think that's a very powerful tool. So we had the one P&L, we had work from anywhere, as we were moving into that. And that's before even COVID hit. So we were pretty well set up to just start running as soon as the world changed.
And so the MBO in 2019, how many people were you when you when you MBO'd?
I would say we were about 20 people.
20, right? Yeah. It's quite. So, and you become Sandpiper. You go straight into the pandemic, which is, I think, for people listening to this who may not be aware, Hong Kong was really, I think, one of the hardest hit places, not necessarily in terms of COVID, but in terms of the lockdown and all the crazy quarantine restrictions. So you've got to manage all of that. You've got multiple offices already, but you're also, as from everything I've seen, and you're also extremely ambitious. You're hungry for growth, and you do grow during the pandemic. And indeed, since the MBO, it's really unlocked quite impressive performance at Sandpiper. You've grown to more than $10 million in fee income. I think you're more than I don't know. It's more than 100 people now. I don't know exactly how many. How did you get all those things right against such a testing backdrop?
Well, I love a challenge, right? As I say, I'm such an optimist. This could be better. But you're right. We went from 20 people, and I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if we could double our revenue in 3 years? And we did that in a year and a half, and starting to add a lot more people. When COVID hit, I remember we had a great crisis plan that was already written, which exactly what we would do if such a thing, once we knew could see it was coming. And we had that written. So we just implemented that. I think there's a few reasons why. I think one of them is we've got an incredible senior team, many people that have been with us for a long time. And that really helps when you've got that strength of management and you trust each other. We split everything up again. I was in charge of one thing, Kelly was in charge of another, Elizabeth, Sarada, Kim, etc., in charge of other things. Phil was in charge of the numbers, of course, which he was really happy because we were doing so well. And the type of work we do, we'd positioned ourselves to do that type of higher fee paying work. A lot of internal communications, change management, employee communications, crisis management, etc. So, of course, we're talking about a time when even if you thought a member of your staff had COVID, that you would have to literally put your crisis plan into action. And so there was a lot of need for our help. What I said to our whole company is every plan that we have, that we are executing against, will be torn up. You've got to be prepared for that. There's no such thing as business as usual at the moment. We have to be nimble. We have to be really proactive, and we have to be able to pivot and move in a different direction very quickly. We have to be super flexible. And we were, we had one client who they were a professional services firm, and all of their partners had taken huge pay cuts. So, we worked for them free of charge for 6 months to try and help them keep their business afloat. And I do think what comes around goes around in those situations. But for our team, it was amazing learning curves, and we did extremely well. And as you know, we're now 5 years old, and we are 5 times the size we were. In those 5 years, we're 140 people, well, almost 150 now, I think. We were 20 people. So that growth has been huge. We were in 2 countries. We're now across, I think, 14 different markets. We've opened in the Middle East. We bought a business in China. We bought North Head. In China during that time. So we certainly didn't let the grass grow. You're right. I'm very ambitious. And I just wanted to really, to just do the best job we could for our clients, stay close to our clients, stay close to our teams. And the proof is in the success that we had. A lot of companies did very well, I think, during COVID. We just did very well.
Yeah. I think probably it helped that, as you mentioned, the kind of work that you do, you're not a consumer marketing firm, really. You're I think quite corporate focused, but also you built quite quickly. You had specialisms in healthcare and technology,
Yes.
Which proved quite prescient. And at that time, actually, healthcare was, this is 5 years ago. Healthcare still hadn't really kind of taken off in the Asian market, but it's done well for you. The other thing you did, which I think was really interesting, is you built kind of a standalone research capability as well, which is it's unusual in general, but in Asia, it's very unique to see a PR firm doing that kind of work. What was the thinking there, and what have you learned in terms of building that?
Yes. Well, to take the specialisms, I believe that clients hire specialists. They hire us because we're very good at sorting and helping them with the business issues. And you're absolutely right. We're very much more of a corporate firm. We've always really looked at the geopolitical landscape, the macroeconomic landscape, and looked at what that means for our clients. So when I look at what's happening in the world now, I think we are again in a very exciting period for us for growth, and in quite a unique position because of the type of work that we do. So yes, we have the largest public affairs team of any team in China. We've just hired a new head of public affairs because our clients need so much more advice and counsel, and that advisory work is something that we as a team really enjoy. We started with health and married public affairs and strategic communications together. And then, of course, with all the work we do in financial, we have a lot of financial services clients who are either investing in healthcare companies whatever.
Yeah.
So they need that expertise. And the one P&L model means you can bring people in and out really
Mm.
quickly without it affecting or without any arguments. Like, Singapore doesn't argue with Dubai, and Hong
Mm.
Kong doesn't argue with Beijing about where that budget is going. We're just doing what needs done for the client. With
Mm.
research, I mean, we've set up several standalone businesses, right? We've got Sandpiper
Mm.
Health, Sandpiper Research and Insights. The health business we actually must have started about 7 years ago, I think now. Even when
Mm.
I was at MHP, we started that. Research
Mhm.
and Insights is because of we could see how important data analytics was becoming. We were working with a lot of research firms for our clients. And, Kelly and I got quite fed up with having lots of information dumped. That's how it felt on us. Like, we've finished the research, here it is. And we'd say that you've been completely immersed in this research for how many months, and you can't give us the salient points. You can't tell us what the most important, hooks are here, because people weren't trained to look for that type of thing. So we decided we'd turn that on its head and build our own function. And our function, we work exclusively with comms, marketing, brand directors. And we're asking them, what are you trying to achieve from thought leadership? And how can we help you? How can we help you achieve that? How can we help you find that white space, that point of differentiation, rather than somebody thinking, I've got a great idea for a piece of research, and the research house goes and does that and brings it back, but it isn't really fit for purpose. And that's been
Mm.
successful, extremely, extremely successful. We have companies where we do all their global research now.
Mm.
It's not just
Yeah.
Asia, it's global. So that's been very, very, very successful for us.
Yeah, and you've used it, of course, to power your own thought leadership. You launched the Reputation Capital study a
We
few years
did.
ago, which has now you've got a Reputation Capital Council. I'm aware that's become quite a popular phrase in other parts of the industry as well.
I know. I couldn't believe it. Well, we did that. Our Reputation Capital study is in its fourth year. We've done the fourth year, so we must have started this about 5 years ago. And yes, I mean, again, it's just, I mean, it's wonderful that some of the networks are catching up with what us independents are doing. But yeah, I couldn't quite believe it when I saw that. Yeah, Burson's got the same name, Reputation Capital name. But yeah,
It's a
good.
catchy name.
It's a catchy name, but good to see that they're catching up with what we've been doing for the last 4 years. And we just saw the importance of that. At the end
Mm.
of the day, reputation is fundamentally at the heart of what we do as practitioners. And
Mm.
even when we talk about reputation, um, we have lunches, we have dinners with clients and people in our industry, and we talk about reputation. And there's so much excitement because you're actually talking about that. You're not talking about just media clippings or something like that. But
Yeah.
ours is really powered by incredible information and
Mm.
global research that we do.
Yeah.
And yes, now we have our Reputation Capital Council of very senior, CMOs and corporate communication heads across the
Mm.
globe. And we're pulling that together, and we will be, really launching that with a vengeance very soon. But yes, it's very
Mhm.
funny, isn't it? That obviously the name is very catchy and very
Yeah.
popular.
So it is, yeah, I guess. But what does the council do, and how does it help the broader study?
Um, it's really trying to take the intelligence that we have managed to gather and all the
Mm.
information and help in-house practitioners to actually understand the fundamentals of how reputation is changing around the world, how the C-suite see reputation, the importance of reputation to a CEO, for example's longevity in business, and what they see as being important or not, and which elements of reputation they see as being important. So that in itself is really, I think, a very powerful tool for them to have. But it's not just looking at your sector, it's actually best practice and how that links against other, other regions, other countries, and also other industries and sectors. So it's very broad but it's very expansive. But
Mm.
really it's bringing all of that data, all of that intelligence that we've gathered. We do quantitative and qualitative research
Hmm.
and bringing that together and distilling that down so that it's actually an insight. I mean, I hate this phrase, actionable insights, but that there are actually, insights that you can actually take in your day-to-day life and put
Hmm.
into action. And I feel that's why it's been so well received by in-house practitioners. I
Yeah,
don't know if
from
you,
from what I understand, the appetite has been, really strong from, senior clients, senior marketers, and from all over the world, right? Many from America who've joined Reputation Capital Council. Presumably that helps to inform the research direction as well.
it does, as we're looking at what we learned 4 years ago to what we're learning now. And I think, let's not forget, it's really quite lonely being a senior in-house practitioner. There's almost nobody for you to talk to unless you're talking to peers within the industry. I mean, if you're very lucky, then for all of us, you've got a great agency partner, and therefore you can talk about everything and you can really help. But if you don't have that, it's really lonely being in house. So anything
Yeah.
that we can do as an industry to talk, the dialogue. I mean, APAC-D, which I know you were
Hmm.
part of for a while. I don't know if you still are, but that in itself is, the Asia Pacific Association of Communications Directors. Have I got that?
Directors. Yep.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. Whew, got that right. Then what? I mean, I'm on the board of the PRCA, so what we're trying to do with the
Hmm.
PRCA as well, just trying to bring people together
Yep.
and just elevate the industry, and that's what we're doing with our research. And of course, we take that helps us inform the type of advice we're giving to our clients, because we have so much knowledge about reputation um, at a global level. So we're able to really
Mm.
take that and talk to our clients and help our clients with their business because of this.
Yeah. Okay. So I think definitely a space to watch. Now, there's a little bit of angst, I think, in the industry at the moment. Um, Although I think there's always angst in the industry, but there's it's not been the easiest period economically. The last, let's say, 18 months, and then of course there's the impact of AI. And certainly, if you look at the bigger end of the scale at the holding groups, they seem to be consolidating, and there seems to be a lot of disruption and turbulence. But and yet, despite all that, you are. Whenever I talk to you, you are extremely positive about your prospects. Um, and how much of that is because you are independent, and also you are quite a rare thing now in that you're an Asian headquartered consultancy that is building a global footprint.
Mm.
Um, why do you feel that you are in a good position when it comes to the market in general?
Well, I mean, a very good question. I would say it feels like it's been a very hard 2 years. It felt like
Mm,
COVID was fantastic for business, but not so good for all our mental health. And then when we came out of that, we've had a lot of issues, right, to contend with globally. Um,
mm,
but one of the great things about having been in the business well, in Asia for 32 years, in the business for a bit longer than that, is that there's constant change. And you have
mm.
to be really, really nimble and very, very focused. So we are very focused
Yeah.
with what we're trying to do. We don't try and do everything, but what we are trying to do, we do very well. I mean, my goal is that I want Sandpiper to put Asia on the global stage. That's what I want to do. We were very fortunate. We were awarded Provoke's Global Corporate Agency of the Year at the end of last year. And that gave us more of people will sit up and take notice because we won a global, not just an Asia Pacific award.
Hmm.
We're very proud of that. I'm very proud of all our people who worked so hard to make that happen. But I am very positive, and I think for a couple of reasons. I mean, one is that there is so much change within our industry, and I know you said I was very diplomatic before, but with all of that, and if there's a lot of internal, looking at the business and working out how that is going to pan out, that means that then there's an opportunity for firms like us who are not doing that. We're looking externally, we're not looking internally. I also think that there has been, we have found that the bigger we've become, the more RFPs we're invited to pitch for and take part in. We win very large mandates. We've won, as you know, several this year, very, very big ones. And that brings amazing opportunities in itself. It means you can hire more people. It means that you can give people opportunities to do very exciting things without the politics that often comes in those larger organizations. And also with that one P&L, meaning that people can work across different offices and across functions, across practice teams, and learn a lot from other people. So that's probably one reason I feel optimistic. And I still think that there's a lot of business to be had. Now, whether that means you have to take it from others. And I've been in this business a long time. We all win business, we all lose business. That's just the way it goes. But I think that there is an opportunity for some of the independent firms to showcase what they can do, and that the answer isn't always having the same name over the door. The answer is putting, best in class together. And I find that's very, very, very interesting, very important. And also I look at the type of work we're doing, because we share that as a company at least once a month. And it's incredible the type of work that we're being asked to do. So yeah, I'm very optimistic, and we do want to take our business global. I'd love to double our business in the next 3 years. That's what I would love to do.
Well, it's great to hear that positivity. It does sound like there's an opportunity for independent firms like yours, and particularly those that are focused on the right areas, amid this kind of this sort of broader uncertainty and turbulence, particularly at the bigger end of the spectrum. And I think also, as you've alluded to, being Asian headquartered, which once upon a time maybe was seen as something that would relegate you to the sidelines. It has given you so much resilience, right, in terms of everything that you've seen and been through over the last 20 years. And also huge amounts of kind of adaptability and cultural intelligence as well. I just wonder, maybe as this world, as we've seen some of the bigger macro trends, does it concern you at all if there's sort of more divergence between Asian economies and Western markets, or do you not see that really impacting your own model?
I don't see it impacting our model as such, because Asia has an amazing way of looking and finding new markets. So, if you look at the traffic between China and the Middle East, for example, that will only get broader and bigger and bigger and bigger. Europe is the same. I mean, America, you could say the same there as well. But, and you look at parts of Asia and Europe, what we're seeing, and what I personally think we'll see a lot more of, is a real pride in being, a Singapore business, or a China business, or a Hong Kong business, Japanese business, whatever. And that there will be a lot more push for your own home market. So I think we'll see rising levels of consumerism in many of the Asian markets themselves, and they might not be buying as much from overseas, but that means that homegrown brands will do a lot better in those markets, and then they will look at going overseas. That whole China go global that we talk about so often. So that I find, it very interesting, and that has, I feel, a lot of opportunity within it.
Yeah.
A firm like us, which we're Asian, right? We're quartered here, been here for a very long time. This is our playground. We understand this market intimately. We understand the different cultures. We understand what you can do in different markets. And we have great expertise on the ground in so many of these markets. And we know the barriers. And I think that's extremely important. If you're just coming into that new, it's much more difficult. There's no, two ways around that. And we've spent years and years putting together our business and growing our business. We have no outside investment. So everything we've done, our amazing growth has all been through our cash flow and out of our own pockets. It's not from any outside investor coming, writing a check, and off we go and do things. So you have to have very good people to be able to do that. And you have to have a great knowledge of the markets that you're going into and clients that are trusting you to expand with them in different markets. So it's exciting.
I totally agree. I feel excited just talking to you. If anything, it does feel like actually there are parts of the agency industry that are retreating a little bit from Asia, which presumably creates even more opportunity for you. It also means that, uncomfortably in some cases, there's a reasonable amount of senior talent out there on the market. And I wonder, how do you look at that as an opportunity? Are these people that you can just bring and plug them in, particularly if they come from a network background? Or is it not always that simple?
No, there is a lot of talent. And that worries me a little bit. It always worries me when you see an agency take out a whole layer of people, because you have to have, clients want advice, and you might think that you can just service particular accounts, but they want advice. They want senior people. They want to know that their business is being handled really well. Because we have predominantly really senior people, that means that our clients do get very good advice, but we execute very well because we do the execution as well, a lot of that. On the more junior side, that worries me as well, because they're the future of our industry. So all this discussion at the moment about AI, that we launched the first AI in communications index, the first one globally, which again, we're very proud of. We have some really good ideas, Sandpiper. They're not mine, by the way. They're predominantly people like Kelly's and our teams. But yeah, we have some great ideas. And that, again, informed us of what especially in-house communicators were very nervous and worried about. That's really morphed and moved on since then. And there's all this discussion about how many young people will we need and that their jobs will be taken by AI. I have a different view of that. I think, one, there's something very important within our industry, is that we should be taking young talent and nurturing it, and because it's the future of our industry. And secondly, they are so digitally native that the way they look at AI is very different to somebody like me looks at it. The way that they incorporate it into their daily use, the way that they're using that. Luckily for them, they won't have to spend 2 years doing media monitoring. Do you remember when we used to cut out newspaper clippings and stick them on? I remember when I was working at Forrest, we had David Tang as a client. For those that don't know, the China Club, Shanghai Tang. And I remember him phoning Anne. He was so angry because the newspaper clippings had arrived and they weren't perfectly straight. Somebody had stuck them on slightly at an angle.
Yeah, that would bother me too, actually. But yes.
Of course, it would bother me, and it really bothered Anne. She's like, "Who did this?" And no. If you're doing it, do it properly. So, but it would really annoy me as well. But you won't have to spend 2 years doing that now. That very expensive degree that you got from Columbia or HKUST or any of the big wonderful schools that we have, you'll be able to put, I think, into good use faster. And that's great for everybody. It's great for us as a business because it means that we have people doing much higher value work really quickly. And I think it's great for the industry because we can actually spend our time training people to do things much faster than we would have done in the past. But what it does mean is that the people that we're looking for have to be, for us, I'm talking about Sandpiper, very smart, and really willing to learn and willing to roll up their sleeves and, take some chances themselves, because we will be, pushing them a little bit, and it's not for everybody. So that's sure. On the senior talent side, I think it's really quite easy to plug people in. Again, it depends. There are people on the market with such experience. It's amazing. Such experience. We've hired a few of those already, which we will starting to come on stream. I think one starts next Monday, and then gradually more people will come on, where we can see where we believe the opportunities lie within our business. And so we're hiring more people to take advantage of those, the growth areas, she says. Let me put that into English, be a little bit more eloquent. The growth areas. Getting too excited now. I'm surprised my cheeks haven't gone really red, Arun, and I'm just getting overexcited, gesticulating wildly.
I think they're already red.
Much. They probably are. I can't smile too much because basically I've got a black eye.
It hurts. Yeah, it probably hurts when you laugh. Okay, so I'll let you go shortly. I want to ask one last question. You mentioned you don't have external investment. You don't have anyone writing you a check. Will that change at any point? Would you consider external investment? Would you consider selling the business? Obviously, these are questions I will always ask of an independent. Capital is attractive. And I'm sure you have people coming at you all the time, whether it's bigger agencies, whether it's PE, or whether it's indeed the brokers and advisors. So what are your thoughts on that?
I guess never say never, right? I mean, at the moment, I'm pretty focused on just doing well in this time, because I can see a period of opportunity where a lot of our competitors are focused on slightly different things. And as you say, there's a lot of great talent in the market, so I can see an opportunity there. And we've won a lot of awards, as you know. So we're up for 3 tonight at the PR Week Awards, the first time campaign. I still call them PR Week, but awards, but the PR awards they've ever had, any category or any agency being shortlisted in more than one category, and we're shortlisted in 3. So that's amazing. So we'll see how we get on.
People will know by the time this comes out. So.
That's so true. They will. I'm just thinking, how can I cover up because I can't wear sunglasses tonight. So unless I want to look like Anna Wintour. So how am I going to?
Well, it should be forgiving lighting, I would hope.
I hope so. I really hope so. I really hope so. But no, to answer your question, I think it never say no, because we just don't know what will happen, and it would be very exciting if that happened too. It would be. At the moment, we're very happy being independent and very happy being able to do this ourselves. But yeah, I would never say no, but also there's nothing happening at the moment, so it's not like I'm going to next week say, "Oh yeah, sorry, I couldn't tell everybody."
You heard it here first. I guess it comes back to the lessons you learned. You mentioned that you learned from Anne Forrest all those years ago, right? They're still just as relevant now when it comes to if you are thinking of joining or
they are,
potentially.
And also we all know, founders who you have a false sense of, I think, a false idea of how much a business is worth. A business is worth what somebody will pay for it. If nobody wants to buy it, then it's really not worth much.
Yeah.
So, you hope to demonstrate that value. As I say, we think that there is great evaluations in that advisory work and that arena, which is why we spent a lot of time focused on building that. And so far, that's, so far so good. That's working very well. But yes, I did. I learned a lot from Anne. I've learned a lot from my friends who've sold their businesses. I learned a lot from my own experience, which for the most part was very pleasurable, and we're still all very good friends, which is wonderful. We still do a lot of work with MHP. That's amazing people there, and so yes, I mean let's see where it takes us. But your piece on PE where you talked about doing IPOs, and I thought that was very exciting that they're coming out of India. And, Nitin on your podcast last week talked about that. I think that's wonderful.
Oh, so you
It's
can list. There you go.
Well, we've had enough experience at writing prospectuses, so yeah, maybe we should. But
Yeah.
but it's it's exciting times, and there are some very good companies out there. It's really great to see new ones springing up all the time as well. Very supportive of all of those. But
Great.
yeah,
Well,
just
I will
really
let you go, Emma. I think you have awards to get to, and you've already been extremely generous with your time today. So, thank you
oh,
so much for coming on the podcast. I
thank you.
don't think you do a lot of podcasts. I'm very, very honored that you
No,
came
I
on.
don't.
And
I don't,
yeah,
and I'm very honored to be asked. And thank you so much for asking me. And hopefully I've done you justice.
oh,
So
absolutely. Thanks very
you
much. Take care. I'll see you soon.
too. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to the Earned First podcast. And of course, thank you to our production partner, Earshot Media.